Now it's hard to believe, but right here was a scene of utter mayhem. I mean, quite literally, teenagers everywhere, because way back in the late 1950s, one of the very first kings of rock and roll arrived here in London's Waterloo Station and created something that really sent a ripple throughout further rock and roll stars, including Sir Paul McCartney, Tommy Steele. Many others could not believe that this particular gentleman had finally arrived on our shores. Who are we talking about? Well, if I said to you, shake, rattle and roll, and let's rock around the clock, it's none other than Bill Haley, along, of course, with his Comets. Now you see, in February 1957, Waterloo Station was a hive of activity, with people ready to welcome this new king of rock and roll. Now what's interesting is the movie Rock Around the Clock had already been out the previous year and caused absolute mayhem in British cinemas. You know, teenagers ripping up cinema seats, storming the stage. Everybody was saying that this is a teenage rebellion like they'd never seen before. Now, when you look at Bill Haley at this point, he was 31 years old, mild-mannered and married. He really had no idea, allegedly, what he created. I mean, when you think about it, the track is brilliant. One of the precursors of everything about rock and roll. You see, over here in the United Kingdom, we had the likes of Tommy Steele just starting to make waves. Cliff was a couple of years off, but they both cited that the arrival of Bill Haley and his Comets to do a concert tour starting at London's Dominion Theatre was definitely the height of their calendar. Now, what a lot of people don't know is simply this. When Bill arrived here in London, by and large it was sponsored by a tabloid newspaper, the Daily Mirror. They paid for the passage over, they paid for the hotel here in London, and that's why you saw these very professional placards and teenagers with Bill's name on. Everything had been thought through to get the maximum publicity. Not only that, they were half sponsoring the tour up and down the UK. It started out, as I say, at London's Dominion Theatre and went into faraway places like the beautiful place of Doncaster in South Yorkshire, I believe at the Gaumont Cinema. It created once again something of a riot. Bill was well and truly a rock and roll star. But like everything in pop, it had to end, and it ended quite quickly. You see, the problem with pop and rock and roll, and it doesn't matter what decade you're in, there's a finite time of which you are successful. You know, people grow up, people move on, brand new fads, a new sound, a new look. And nobody really could accuse Bill Haley of being, well, let's be honest, anything but a sex symbol. I mean, the bottom line was, as I say, he was 31 years old, married, and had that brilliant kiss curl. What the kids liked was the sound. As Tommy Steele told me, it was revolutionary to be heard in a cinema or a theatre with a brilliant bass line, a live rock and roll band, kids literally tearing up the seats because they'd heard nothing quite like it. However, as I say, pop success is very much short-lived. The tour started in February, but truly, by the end of March 1957, as Bill and his wife Cuppy returned back to the Savoy Hotel suite of which they started out in March, things were looking decidedly dicky. British stars were coming on the horizon, lots of other stars were, well, rising up. You know, the likes of Dickie Valentine, Frankie Vaughan, not necessarily rock and roll, but certainly taking their songs in a more rock and roll vein. So what happened to Bill Haley and his Comets? Well, of course, they were the, well, number one, if you like, for a short period, which put them in the history books. And more importantly, they were welcomed back here into the United Kingdom time and time again. In fact, the last time that Bill came back to the United Kingdom, he was lucky enough to perform in front of royalty. The very final time, of course, was in 1979. But quite literally, it all started at Waterloo Station with a little help from a tabloid newspaper. Now, where have we heard that before? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.